Well, we all knew this day was coming. Now, while I could make a video about the most important event of the 21st century so far, aka the entire point of my channel, that sounds depressing. I don't want to do that. Instead, like the good zoomer I am, I will process this event through the lens of popular media references. And while we said we'd never forget, the media sure did everything in its power to make sure we didn't remember. But first, we have to start at the start of media in the 90s. Now, to understand how things change, we have to understand how things were in the before. And while understanding the 90s is an impossible task, I mean, what the hell is even this? Media at the time had a noticeably lighter, happy-go-lucky tone to it. Except for all this, but that stuff's timeless. The late 80s and 90s were filled with bright, flashy colors, family sitcoms, awesome explosions, the Disney Renaissance, and terrorists. Terrorism and terrorists were nothing new in 90s movies. In fact, there was a surprisingly large amount of them in media. And while yes, you still had your Arabic Muslim terrorists, it was kind of just a catch-all term for bad guys. Terrorists were either villains whose motivations you weren't supposed to think too hard about, or Irish. After the fall of the Soviet Union, they kind of replaced communists as the default bad guys. And heading into the 21st century, there were a bunch of movies centering around terrorist plots. It just wasn't seen as something all too serious. I mean, America was thriving. Military actions were small and distant. The president was doing his thing. Or someone was doing it for him, heyo. Terrorist attacks had happened, but Osama bin Laden was actively mocked in the media. It was just seen differently, and so was the World Trade Center. While today, the towers are basically only used in media to say, hey look, we're in the 90s. In the 90s, they were used to say, hey look, we're in New York. The World Trade Center was the most prominent aspect of the New York City skyline, like the Needle in Seattle, or the 300-foot pile of feces in Philadelphia. So if your show or movie was taking place in New York, you were gonna see them. And being the biggest city in America, a lot of shows and movies took place there. By September of 2001, there was a lot to be excited about in the industry. Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, a project over 30 years in the making, was finally set to come out in a few months. New York's very own The Strokes were set to release their highly anticipated debut album in the US. Metal Gear Solid 2 was slated to come out. One of the 90s biggest hits, Forrest Gump, was set to get a sequel. With action movies, 3D games, and rock bands, it seemed like the 2000s would just be a continuation of the 90s. I don't think I need to tell you what happens next. Immediately, the entertainment world was hit with an extremely important and complicated question. How will this affect Zoolander in the box office? And secondly, how the hell do we deal with this? Who would even go to the movies at a time like this? Do people even want to watch shows on TV? Do we cancel everything? Is showing mass destruction in media still okay? Was it ever okay? My god, we had like 7 movies about terrorists in the works. Why did we think that was a good idea? Big action destruction and terrorists were actually so common in the 90s that during the attacks, people felt like they were watching a movie. Now, both had become taboo, and media had been changed forever. Let's start with the insane coincidences. On the nights of September 9th and 10th in Las Vegas, comedian George Carlin was testing out material he was going to use in his new HBO special. A special he planned to name I Kind of Like It When a Lot of People Die. I don't know why he wanted to name it that. I don't know why during it he talked about mass death and how it was terrific. I don't know why he made a joke during his set about a plane exploding and it being blamed on Osama bin Laden. Again, one day before 9/11. All I do know is that for a little while, there were people in Las Vegas who definitely believed the narrator from Thomas the Tank Engine may have just committed the largest terrorist attack in history. Jackie Chan was set to star in his new action comedy Nosebleed about a window washer at the World Trade Center who stops a terrorist attack on the Statue of Liberty, but still. He was set to start shooting scenes at the towers on the morning of September 11th, and only didn't because of a late script, which goes to show that procrastination saves lives. So keep watching YouTube, it can wait. TV was basically 24/7 news, movies were being pushed back, and music was no different. The Strokes delayed their album, both because of the attacks and because they had to record a whole new song. Since they had to remove New York City Cops, the 9th song on their 11-track album that wasn't very nice to them. Believe it or not, but songs about how stupid the NYPD is were not in vogue. Though this was only for the CD release, as the vinyl had come out on, you guessed it, September 11th. Another September 11th release was the band Dream Theater's new album, an album that depicted the New York City skyline burning with the Twin Towers, called Live Scenes from New York, potentially the most unlucky timing of all time. The Emmy Awards were set to take place that week, but were pushed back to October 6th, and probably postponed again when the US started bombing Afghanistan that same day. Tough luck. With a traumatized country, the media had to walk on eggshells. What was and wasn't okay now? Could you still show the Twin Towers? What about New York City? What about terrorists or destruction? Everyone was terrified of invoking memories of the attacks. Thus, media in all forms began what I like to call the Great Erasening, removing any potential memories of 9/11. Promotional material for the upcoming Spider-Man movie prominently featured the World Trade Center, so it was all changed. The Simpsons had to pull their New York City episode just for featuring the Twin Towers. Zoolander, which was set to come out only 3 weeks after the attacks, decided to not delay the movie and not cut scenes with the Twin Towers like many other movies. Instead, they digitally removed the towers and released it anyways. Though it was done to not upset people, everyone knew that it was filmed before 9/11, so the towers not being there was way more jarring and not well received. Plus, a movie about assassinating the prime minister of a Muslim country so US businesses can take advantage of them was seen as pretty out of touch. Power Rangers Time Force changed several episodes to remove things that may even remind people of 9/11. Specifically, giant monsters blowing up buildings and a speech by the villain that was apparently too similar to ones given by Bin Laden. I don't know if that means the writers were really good or Bin Laden gave speeches on the level of a Power Rangers villain. Even old media wasn't safe from the erasening. In TV showings, Back to the Future removed references to terrorists. Home Alone 2 cut a scene on top of the Trade Center, and Armageddon removed a scene of the towers getting hit by meteors and burning. For the re-release of E.T., the word terrorist was replaced with hippie, which is definitely not the same thing. But it wasn't just stories about terrorists or the towers that were censored. Anything involving large destruction, explosions, fire, or anything similar was removed from all media. Like a scene including too much smoke and fire being cut from an extremely goofy movie, which I learned from the funniest named article I've ever seen. You ever just watching an extremely goofy movie and get reminded of, with the new reality in America, new and upcoming media had to quickly adapt to the times. Many movies were either delayed or completely canned. Eric Roth, the screenwriter for Forrest Gump, had just finished his script for a sequel. Forrest was gonna get up to his usual antics, dancing with Princess Diana, riding in the back of OJ's Bronco, being at the Oklahoma City bombing, and he finally had a script he was proud of, turning it in on September 10th. God, why was everything happening that week? But 9/11 kinda ruined the emotional impact of it all, and everyone agreed that the movie felt pointless and out of touch now. Fox's planned movie about a group of New York City firefighters who rob an apartment building and accidentally set it on fire had to be scrapped. Yeah, that probably wouldn't have went well. The climax of Men in Black 2 was originally going to be a dramatic battle at the World Trade Center. Metal Gear Solid 2 removed a scene of the Statue of Liberty blowing up. Monsters Inc. would come out only 2 months after the attacks. In a scene where Mike and Sully are running from a restaurant after someone sees Boo, the Child Detection Agency originally blew up the building, which is way funnier. But since exploding buildings weren't very funny at the time, it was replaced with a plasma dome. The music industry was having issues as well. Clear Channel Communications released a list to over 1,000 radio stations across the country on songs that should now not be played. Some of them, yeah, made sense, like Van Halen's Jump or Steve Miller's Jet Airliner, but others never would have been associated with the attacks if not for the sick mind of whoever wrote the list. Shunned songs included Boston's Smokin', The Bangles' Walk Like an Egyptian, that's gotta be racist, Everclear's Santa Monica, which isn't even in the right city, and all Rage Against the Machine songs. Basically, any song mentioning fire in any capacity was included, along with a bunch of anti-war songs. 9/11 even changed one of the greatest musicians in human history, DJ Khaled, who used to go by the nickname The Arab Attack. Truly one of the most unintentionally funny people of all time. Speaking of musicians, aspiring cartoonist Gerard Way witnessed the events firsthand from a train. This would change his life. As soon as he could, he picked up a guitar and wrote a song about it. And the very next day, he formed the band My Chemical Romance. Yes, that is why that band exists. Strangely, even New York itself was almost seen as taboo. Gangs of New York was delayed an entire year, despite the movie taking place in the 1800s, and Frank Sinatra's New York, New York was on the no playlist. It's hard to understand just how pervasive 9/11 was on every aspect of American life. A few other movies and shows were edited to remove smoke and fire, but the fear of smoke was actually used brilliantly in Sesame Street. While not directly addressing what happened, it's not like Big Bird is going to teach terrorism to toddlers, an episode featured Elmo becoming traumatized from a grease fire in a restaurant. So to help reassure him, real New York City firefighters come to visit and explain there's nothing to fear. But other family-oriented shows had a tougher time dealing with it. The Family Guy episode Road to Rhode Island was removed for having a scene of Osama bin Laden sneaking weapons onto a plane by singing a little song in an episode from a year before. It's especially ironic considering that creator Seth MacFarlane was minutes away from getting on one of the planes. Due to an error in his flight itinerary, he showed up to the gate late and wasn't allowed to board.
Darn, I almost had him.
One of the most famous changes was from Lilo and Stitch, the good one. The movie was still in production in 2001 and wouldn't be released until June of the next year. In the movie, the evil Captain Gattsu captures Lilo, so the heroes hop into Jumba's spaceship to go rescue her, because Jumba is a good guy like he should be. A chase ensues, with the ships flying through the beautiful mountains of Hawaii. The scene makes sense and adds to the space alien aesthetic while showing off the beauty of Hawaii. But this wasn't the original scene, oh no. Originally, instead of jumping into Jumba's spaceship, the heroes hijack a 747 and fly it through skyscrapers in downtown Honolulu, crashing into some of them. So, yeah, change for the better, I'd say. Did they forget how to draw Jumba in the new scenes? Why does he look like that? Whether or not to remove the towers from new and existing movies was a complicated topic that not everyone agreed on. When Gangs of New York finally did release the next year, producers wrestled with what to do with the final scene, which featured a view of the towers. Some argued to remove it, some argued to keep it, some argued to keep it but have the towers fade away in the shot to symbolize that they are now gone. Insane that they even considered that. But in the end, they kept it, which kind of just makes the whole year delay pointless if you were just gonna keep the scene with the towers anyways. I mean, it's stupid. We even decided to delay the movie. Yet everywhere you looked, it seemed like the towers were being erased from history, like they never existed at all. It's all a bit ironic looking back on it. Keeping or removing the towers was not only a contested issue, but had some unintended consequences on the stories they were telling. Take, for example, Stuart Little 2. Taking place in New York, they also digitally removed the buildings before release. Problem is, this is Stuart Little 2, and in the first movie, the towers were there. What does this mean? It means that Stuart Little the Mouse Child witnessed the towers falling, probably from his stupid little car. It's a very Merry Muppet Christmas movie was in the middle of filming during the attacks. In it, Kermit the Frog gets depression and wishes that he was never born. So an angel comes down to show him what a world would look like if he was never born. Okay, it's a Wonderful Life, but with Muppets. Problem is, in this alternate reality, we see the towers still standing. We don't see them in the world where he was born, which means in the story of this movie, something Kermit the Frog did in his life caused 9/11. Basically, any movie featuring New York without the towers was kind of implying that 9/11 also happened in that universe. The Cars universe has modern TSA. Why would they need that? The Marvel Cinematic Universe starts with Tony Stark helping fight terrorists in Afghanistan. How did that happen? Real shame all these heroes showed up right after, huh? But this also had implications on movies that decided to not cut the towers out. In AI artificial intelligence, the towers are seen thousands of years in the future. This wasn't removed from the DVD release in 2002, which means they made the conscious decision that 9/11 did not happen in that world. Weird that Spielberg would remove the word terrorist from one of his movies, but keep the Twin Towers thousands of years in the future in another one. As time moved on, media adapted to the new mood in America, a far more patriotic mood. When Spider-Man released the next year, it had been changed to be more patriotic. During the climax, a random group of New Yorkers just start throwing things at the Green Goblin.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us!
And the final scene of the movie features Spider-Man in front of a giant American flag. All cheesy, but all greatly beloved and appreciated. Mostly gone were the days of the poppy action-adventure movies. Instead came the gritty, realistic thrillers. The Bourne Identity, the movie that would launch the Jason Bourne series, was set to release on September 7th, but arguments between the director and producers on where to take the movie led to it being pushed back to 2002. Very lucky for them, since movies released around this time did terribly in the box office, and having the US government be the bad guys wouldn't have helped with that. Though new scenes were shot to make US intelligence services look less completely evil, they were never used, since by the time the movie came out, the public was becoming more weary of government surveillance and overreach, which arguably made the movie a lot more popular than it would have been otherwise. It arguably started the trend of the gritty action thriller in the 2000s. Yet as time moved on, the fear of giving people Black Ops style flashbacks faded. The world came out of the haze, and even started making movies directly confronting the events. But how it changed the media landscape going forward is a story for another day. Today, many of these lost episodes are now available, and changes to classic movies have been reverted. It may feel like an overreaction, but many of these changes were done with good intentions at heart, whether they were well received or not. But it's interesting to look back at a time where the fear of remembering almost led to the erasure of the one thing we said we'd never forget. And now, since the creation of the internet, you can rest assured that no matter how many movies and TV shows removed them, we will never get the image of the towers out of our heads for the rest of our lives. Like and subscribe. Bye bye.